ignition. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but minds keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right girls, let her tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pine, if you wanna touch Mount, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
David Samson arrives and asks correctly, why is Stugotz surrounded by so many plants? Many people are made uncomfortable by how cheap and flimsy the fabric is on my Fred Flintstone costume. Mike Ryan said to me in a way that felt really vulnerable, Calvin Klein, huh?
Can I say something? Dan, you pull off Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, you do.
You really do.
I mean, body type, hair color. I mean, it's working.
Can I get a yabba dabba doo?
Comes natural.
Hair on the shoulders. Just,
arm width.
Just thick. General blocky thickness.
Thickness.
Yeah. In sports and sports media, it's Berman, the former Hall of Fame guy that would go around telling people they're in the Hall of Fame, and you.
Are your feet covered in dirt right now?
I am barefoot. I am committed to the character. Billy is indeed ruling with an iron fist, or attempting to.
Look at this. What are you attempting to?
Stugotz has a shirt on.
Yeah, Stugotz.
What do you mean?
Stugotz is supposed to pay off. David, to answer your question, why all the plans? Stugotz has said, and we're holding him to it, mostly iron-fisted Billy.
Yep.
That in this first hour he will go shirtless to endure a grid of death punishment, but. He looks thicker than I do right now because it seems like he is covered in winter gear. He's the opposite of shirtless. He's wearing more fabric on top of him than I've ever seen.
It's been a long season, Dan. It's chilly outside today. It is. I mean, you felt it, right?
It's not chilly.
What do you mean?
Today.
Why aren't you shirtless?
All right, I'll take it off.
Wow. Okay. There it is.
Yeah, take the sweater off. Come
okay.
All
Looks like he has four sweaters on.
While he's doing this, David Samson, nothing personal. I'm here to tell you again, what he and John Skipper do is the best sports business hour you will find anywhere, and nothing personal covers a lot of terrain that not many people in sports are covering. Samson, what are you looking at now? Are you wearing a scarf?
It's cold out, like I said. I mean, you feel it. Everyone feels it.
It's not cold.
It's Thanksgiving.
You see he's on the sweater line. Take off the next.
How many things is he wearing?
I have a scarf on from USA Soccer. This is what they send you when you're the world's #1 soccer fan.
Well, take that off and the hoodie that you have off.
Hoodie?
Yeah, you're wearing a hoodie. What is that?
I've never seen someone undress this slowly.
We're going to get all of it. He has put a lot of plants in here to cover. I don't think any of this is going to work.
What are you wearing?
I've seen a pouch, and it wasn't on fabric. I saw something jiggle under there.
Take that shirt off, too.
This shirt?
How many shirts do you have on?
Cold outside, Danny.
It's 79 degrees.
This is like teenagers playing strip poker.
It is an unpleasant way to play this.
You shouldn't be playing with teenagers.
I am sorry.
Good.
That is what you said. Questionable legacy. Joe Zagacki has made a ruling. We'll talk to him later in the show. He came in hot with opinions today. We're going to lose this last shirt.
Christ, man.
How many more shirts does he have on?
A closet.
Is the segment over yet?
You should have heard him negotiating last night via text. You should have heard.
Before the last shirt comes off, I'll give you one more chance, Dan, okay? You could have this on Max, okay? We debut on Max. I could do this on Max, or I could do it today. You know, it's a light day in terms of viewership when you talk about the day before Thanksgiving. So it's up to you, last
Take off your
chance.
shirt, dude.
So you want to negotiate. He's been trying to do this for about 12 hours.
I got 2 more shirts.
We did a poor job of
Your
announcing.
stomach came out and we already saw the gag.
Don't put that hat on.
What gag?
What's the gag, Billy?
Just wait for it. Oh, wow.
Oh, he's cut up.
He's
cut up. He's got abs.
We're one shirt away, Dan. You might want to take the deal.
Yeah, Max, you're being denied this debuting on what used to be HBO Max.
I mean, I'll give you 2 Maxes in exchange for today. How about that?
Take the
Just
shirt.
take it
A
off.
Max during debut week and a
Take
Max
the
goddamn
goddamn
later.
shirt off.
I mean, how about that?
Take the shirt off.
It is. It's just lagging. The whole thing is lagging.
Oh, it's lagging. All right.
Let's get to David Samson and let's get to your shirtlessness. There it is. unflattering angles. There
Wow, we
are
got
no
some abs
there.
on
David Samson has put on his glasses. What do you see there, David Samson? What is your vantage point?
That he's trying to CGI abs on him by using marker.
What?
And in fact, it looks like a tic-tac-toe board on the Michelin Man.
Billy, just for a ruling, is he allowed to wear that scarf?
It's chilly, man.
No, you got to take off the scarf because you need to put on the chains and the glasses. 'Cause
What?
He's paying off a Kirk Cousins punishment.
Oh, a twofer.
The side angle, not terrible.
Well, there's
No,
a
it's
tree in the
because
way.
it's
Because that's a green
Just
one.
saying, whatever he's doing, not terrible.
Okay, so what he's done is he has successfully defeated. Maybe for Max, we could get the unflattering view. We can.
That opportunity passed.
Oh,
Dan.
it's over. The negotiation is over. All right, David, help me understand what just happened with Stephen Ross and the breaking news that he has. He's in negotiations with a hedge fund manager to give, or not give, to sell a minority ownership in F1, in everything he's doing in the Dolphins. Why is Stephen Ross taking on a $35 billion?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you anymore, Dan. That may be me, but I think it's more likely you because something happened when Stu took his shirt off. I stopped hearing.
Well, can you hear us now?
I hear you, Mike. I
You
don't
do not hear
Dan.
me?
Okay, well,
I think all of the sound waves from the big studio have been sucked up by Stu's shirtless appearance.
well, he was asking you about Stephen Ross. What is he doing?
So, Stephen Ross, here's what octogenarians have to do. They have to do something called estate planning, which is what wealthy people do in order to protect their wealth for generations. And what it really is tax avoidance. Because if you die with a lot of money, you owe the government, let's say 50%, just for round numbers. So what generally has to happen after someone dies is their estate has to do a sale in order to monetize assets to pay a tax.
All right, so
Gets.
who? Oh, there, you're back. Who is the person that he's going to be selling to? Because I know with the whole like Tom Brady thing, there was this. I think his name is Bruce Beal. He was essentially the owner in waiting, but the inclination is that that's over and done with after the NFL stepped in on all the tampering stuff.
Who is this Ken Griffin? How is he worth $35 billion? And you're saying this is largely a matter of accounting and estate planning?
This is a matter of him selling the team. What you're reading is that he's selling a minority piece. What really is going to happen is that it will be a minority piece with a path to control, which means there will come a time when he will own the entire franchise. You see that with other franchises. Our friend David Blitzer in Cleveland with the Indians bought the Indians with the Guardians, with a path to control.
You were right.
You saw it with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore. By the way, A-Rod did the business deal of the century while no one was paying attention. He bought the Timberwolves for $1.5 billion, but didn't pay for it. And by the time he's paying for it, the team is worth $2.5 billion, and he's getting people to invest at that increased valuation.
All
What's
right,
going on
We've got issues with David Sampson. We'll boot him from the Zoom.
So what happens is you put a
He's back.
I'm gonna let David go real quick.
He's back.
All right, yes, we are having some audio issues with you, David.
Thank God today is not Max Day.
It is good information that we're getting from you, and I will tell the audience because I'm guessing that he covered this on Nothing Personal. We will try to get David back and get the audio corrected here, but the way that he covers this stuff, in the way that that John Skipper covers it, it has more information than I'm used to hearing about what these business deals are. I am curious because I did not know until listening to it right now how it is that Bruce Griffin has navigated the labyrinth that allows him to get into NFL ownership.
Ken Griffin?
Ken Griffin, excuse me.
It's a fun, yeah.
Ken Griffey.
Thank
Junior,
you,
the kid.
Billy. Excellent work by you. I'm glad that that's where you engage. Thank you for always being helpful that way. I am curious, when you have ownership changes, it usually comes with us knowing the people involved, the community knowing the people involved. And if he's talking about Stephen Ross selling the team and allowing different ownership than what was going to be happening, because all that seemed to blow up around the Tom Brady stuff, Mike.
It did. But if you're familiar with how Stephen Ross came to owning the Miami Dolphins, wasn't it a similar situation where he had minority stakes and he was sort of the owner in waiting, and then he took over the full share of the Miami Dolphins, and he tried doing it with Bruce Beal, but that got blown up with the Brady stuff. So now he's just trying it again. This seems to be the MO of this regime.
We will get back to Samson. He's trying to talk right now, and his audio's not working. So
because I have him down.
All right, go ahead, David. What were you going to say to that?
I don't know where you lost me, except to tell you that Stephen Ross is going to sell the Dolphins in full, not in part. And he's doing it to a billionaire who is coming to Miami, along with Jeff Bezos. Everybody's coming to Miami, Dan. It's the place to be. And he is, whatever he's worth, say $35 billion. This is a great, great ego purchase. The Dolphins, forget whether they're a good team or not, but he's also getting the stadium, the formerly known Joe Robbie Stadium, and a piece of F1, which, as you know, does very well for Liberty. And so it's a very large deal that makes a lot of sense given Steve Ross's age and his personal situation.
Do you have any guesses that would be responsible on the value of what is being transacted here?
So, yeah, responsible, yes. I can give you an estimate given what we saw the Commanders trade at, $6.5 billion. Given that there's other assets involved in this deal, the entire enterprise is likely going to be in the $7.5 to $8 billion range. And then it will be a matter of what percentage he buys over what period of time.
Okay, and that Ken Griffin is worth $35 billion. So $8 billion getting in for a percentage. Your thoughts are what on when he will be owning the team and what the labyrinth is on getting through the other NFL owners to get to a team? And also, you can speak to the history of damaged relationships that have minority owners in them because these pathways get crossed with money. Like, this relationship needs to be solid.
Generally, what happens is there is a 5-year period when you do a step transaction. And that means that you own the team over a period of time. Let's say you get 10% to start, and then you get 10% a year for 5 years. That's why it's called a path to control. But often it can happen sooner, where the seller doesn't have a choice because the buyer can actually call the team away from the current owner and say, I want to give you the balance of your money now and take control now. And that's the biggest negotiation that takes place once you come to a price.
Is Stephen Ross still keeping his options open? Because we learned with the whole Bruce Beal thing, Bruce Beal was pre-approved by the other owners to take over that stake. And then when he got out of the picture, Stephen Ross's daughter kind of entered the fray. And it's kind of whispered about that Stephen Ross's daughter doesn't necessarily want to let go of the Miami Dolphins, wants to keep it in the family, even after Stephen Ross's passing. Is this a way for Stephen Ross to keep his options open as that kind of version of succession plays out?
Well, generally, when you do a transaction like this, there is no way out. You cannot decide to break the deal when there's a path to control. If the buyer, like A-Rod with the T-Wolves, or in this case, Griffin, if they can't.
For the love of God.
All right, we're gonna let David go. It's just not working out today.
I love watching him talk.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, David.
Yeah, we're just gonna let David go. It's just not working out.
Our apologies, David. We're going to try and see if we can get you back, maybe.
No, we won't. He's
okay,
done.
He's done for the day.
Wow, happy Thanksgiving.
Wow, there
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Ejected.
Hit the showers.
Ejected. That's it. That's it.
It's like we broke up. He's like, it's not going to work out.
We can't hear you, David. I mean,
It's not. It's
I have
not
him down,
you.
guys.
It's us.
No, it's him.
Billy is ruling.
Given our history, it's probably us.
Billy is ruling with an iron fist. I'm going to think that the audience is going to find this shot of Stugotz disappointing. He has successfully navigated.
I'm shirtless.
The iron. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
I cannot dispute that you are shirtless, but you.
I love flour, Dan.
Why did we not get this sponsored?
Somehow you still look more like an idiot.
It is sponsored by KFC.
I'm pretty jacked. I mean, you could see the inner workings, Dan, when I was a kid, of a guy who had a great physique, right? You can see it. It's in there somewhere.
You've got a frame.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about what is happening on Friday, Stugotz, because this is unusual. This is an unusual week. It's Wednesday of Thanksgiving week. A lot of people are going to have the next 4 days off to wrestle with their families. I want you to put this on the poll for me, Juju, at Le Batard Show.
Wrestle.
Holidays, joyful or stressful? Joyful or stressful? Because I'm getting triggered by Jared commercials.
Oh, boy.
Like, I don't know what's happening. They've made me sad for a long time, and I don't know what it is about the holidays. And I just want to ask you guys, as we head into what can often be a stressful period with the family, on Friday, you have not just the Dolphins playing, the University of Miami playing the latest, biggest game of their season to determine whether the season was a success or not at noon on Friday against Boston College. The howling will last for months on Mario Cristobal either way at the end of this season. But if you lose to BC, with Van Dyke out here doing conference calls with reporters saying, I don't know if I'm going to be back next year. I don't know. I'm weighing my options now. And everybody's like, good riddance. Go and let's see what's next. We got to see what's next here because the young players are their best players. And he now represents the old regime, and Mario Cristobal is going to be fighting for his life in the state next year with these coaches, just in the state in year 3.
At least they have options now. I mean, these kids have options. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing as far as I'm concerned.
Right, but I'm guessing most of the University of Miami fans listening to this are saying Van Dyke can go now. I'd like to see what progress looks like. I'm guessing that's not how I ever had all of that going. Where the program was, Stugotz, we'll get to the Dolphins in a second because they play the one that's most interesting on Friday. You guys don't think a lot of people are just going to miss that because it's prime and 3:30 and it's Friday and you're not paying attention and you forget it's 3:30?
It is an odd time, but I think people will be tuned in. We also got Heat and Panthers that day.
Stack sleep. But 3 o'clock for an NFL game on an island is so weird. It's like, give me 4:30 or give me 1.
It's not Saturday, though. I mean, it's
Doesn't
not
matter.
Sunday.
Doesn't matter.
Friday, a little different.
3 o'clock.
They're giving you time to get your stuff done, hang out with the family.
I have nothing to do.
I mean,
I have nothing to do. I have
sleep
eating
off the meal
and watching. That's all I have to do.
They
so
should
give me it
ask
early.
you your schedule next time.
I would appreciate that, actually.
They're giving you the witching hour on a Friday. You're going to be all soaked in tryptophan. You're going to be disoriented. You guys are you're not maybe usually off on a Friday. You've got family again hectoring you. You're getting hit from every angle by the in-laws. And you can't wait till 7 o'clock gets here and everyone gets the bleep out of the house. And maybe you lose track of time somewhere. I'm telling you, Friday has the potential to disorient sports fans all over the world.
welcome to marriage, Dan.
It's not marriage.
What is it?
It is parents who have, lost a child recently.
Well, you should be hanging out with them all weekend.
Thank you,
I was going to
Stugotz.
say also marriage, but
Yes.
you kind of took the cake there.
I know. I blame Stugotz. I don't.
And ate it.
Thanks to inflation, that cake costs $400.
And the reason I blame
A couple
Stugotz
topics for Thanksgiving dinner, if you'd like.
is because he knows so little about marriage that he wouldn't know to not ask me about the in-laws on an open microphone.
Oh,
I didn't ask you. I mean, you led me there.
No, I didn't lead you anywhere. You could have sat it out, as you often do. You were allowed that.
Right.
But
Fair. I'm sorry, Dan.
you're not.
I am.
You're not. Stugotz.
I am.
You never.
You're making me feel bad now.
Stugotz,
I mean, it's cold in here.
You never.
These leaves are tickling me.
You never mean it when you apologize. Your apologies have been ground to dust. They don't.
throw out the Middle East. See how that works.
Where's Samson?
See where people stand.
The University of Miami conversation is over after this game.
I think it's been over for a while.
It's never over.
honestly.
Well, they still have a bowl game to play.
6-5
See where
or
that
6-5 this week, Boston College.
Well, this is the Blake James revenge game. You can't lose to Boston College.
Oh, boy.
I think Mario's been quoted because they're expecting some bad weather. That actually might lean more into Miami's identity or pseudo-identity. He's like, there's no such thing as bad weather, just soft people. So we'll find out together on Friday.
That should be a T-shirt. There's no such thing as bad weather, just soft people.
Sounds better when you're 10-0. I mean,
It does, and I will say that normally this would be a game, if you care about the University of Miami, the season's already kind of done without the signature win under your belt of Louisville. But low-key, it's a disastrous season if the regular season ends with just a one-game improvement over last year. I kind of feel like Mario needs this one. And it's not the first time we've entered a game where it felt like, damn, Mario kind of needs this one. Thankfully, he won the last one against Clemson, which I guess would be his signature win now that Clemson has kind of righted the ship thanks to Tyler. But you kind of need to have a little bit more improvement than just one win.
This is just to see which crappy bowl they end up in.
Yeah.
They should actually like reject a bowl invite. Like Mario, you told us last year didn't want to play in a bowl game, so they should do that. They weren't eligible, so it wasn't really his choice. But he said he didn't want to play in a bowl game. He should do the same thing this year and be like, "Nah, we're good."
Hit the trail.
Yeah,
I actually do think he did. Well, they're already in a bowl game no matter what. But at this point, last year was about purging the roster, and I do think that I was a big believer in the locker room just wasn't right, and there was an intangible thing that was kind of hanging over the team that it lacked certain intangibles. And I do think from watching them this year, they're fighting in games. It's not the same kind of team that would quit last year. The talent has certainly improved. It's just the frustrating part for me is, as someone that bought in on all that, even though I see it on the field, it's not resulting in wins. So how much stock can you really take in that if it's only just a one-game improvement?
If I may, though, okay, because you have been shaken as a fan who cares about this thing, because Colorado comes in and disrupts at the beginning of the season with new guy, how fast can you fix it? Mel Tucker's 10-1. Oh, that wasn't real. Oh, Lincoln Riley's big season. Oh, that wasn't real. It's not about fixing it for one season, though. You know, all of us remember Mark Richt's #1 Hurricanes playing at Pittsburgh. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, they were #2, but they would have been #1 if they won that game. And then Evan Sheriff showed up.
And I'm talking.
Kenny Pickett beat them.
I know.
It was unbelievable to see Miami in the top 5 with what all of us thought wasn't a good enough team to be up there. But if I may, because this is not forgiveness for what it is happened with Mario Cristobal. The expectations that come with $80 million are immediate and they are profound, especially since we're doing this so overtly as business now. You get the best players. We pay you a lot. We pay them a lot. I don't know how much Van Dyke made. It's a lot, Stugotz. Those reports were that Tua's brother, Tagovailoa, was in.
Good transition to the first name.
You can just call him Talia.
That he was in Maryland, SEC teams were offering him more money than rookie quarterbacks are making in the NFL.
Right. Are we stuck with Mario Cristobal? Is that the deal? Like, is he going to be here for 8 years?
We're already here.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not asking this, Mike. I am not asking this to upset you, upset the fan base.
You've called him a failure several times and a bad coach, but I will say that they are in year 2 of an 8-year, $80 million deal. This is not the type of institution that is like Texas A&M. There are no $160 million donations that are going to be unveiled at halftime. This has to work.
Okay.
It flatly has to. And the NIL investment, that also has a time limit too. There's seed money provided to this coaching staff. It's not going to be sustainable. The whole plan is build a good program, invest early, and then once you have a winning program, the recruiting becomes a lot easier.
But you see in college programs all across the country, who's the coach that went in and got it right? Is there 2 of them? 3 of them? So like
immediately?
Immediately.
Did Deion get it right? Because they're 4-7 now and not making a bowl.
It's
Kirby Smart.
But
no, it took time for Kirby Smart too.
Look,
it took time for Nick Saban. Like immediately, it's tough to find those examples. However, I do think, and Dan's got to get in here in a second, but I do think that the timeline on that kind of stuff has been shortened because of things like the transfer portal. You can afford to have less patience. It can be a serious – I don't think it's a serious discussion now. No one's really talking about, with any sort of legitimacy, Mario Cristobal and buyout. Those are things that we're kind of projecting right now. But in year 3, if they lose to Florida – that conversation does start in earnest, I think.
Well, my point in everything it is that I just described, that Mel Tucker didn't actually fix it. Lincoln Riley didn't actually fix it. You have to take long view on these things. Stugotz, in our lifetime, the teams have basically been that have done it long time. University of Miami, USC, Alabama, and now Georgia. There's some Ohio State in there, but like just sustained stuff where you know you're getting 10 wins every year and you know you're a national championship contender.
It took Jim Harbaugh about 4 or 5 years.
But Mike, who's involved in the boosterism and the economy of this thing, is sitting here saying at these microphones that Mario Cristobal at the end of year 2 has a kind of needed game, another kind of needed game. And what I'm telling you is the timeline on all this money has been fast forwarded if that's where we are. Like if Cristobal's playing for hot seat next year, this was supposed to be an 8-year contract and Miami doesn't have the business money to afford 4 years of buyout.
Look, boosters and the administration, everyone's talking about the ACC, where you stand. We're not getting enough money. Vanderbilt's making 7 figures more than us with their TV deal, and all that stuff needs to be prioritized over a potential buyout. You can't be talking buyout with this coach at this moment.
Stugotz is saying here, he is promising me whisper, sensual whispers. Dan, I'm going to start removing some plants soon.
Yep. I'm going to do it, Dan. We'll start with this one right here. Let's move this one just a little bit. We'll put it right over here, give people a better view, let them take it all in.
I think you took a tiny one and put it in a place where it's blocking
the plants.
More views. You didn't say, okay, you're going to be moving plants, but you're not going to be moving plants to reveal more?
Semantics.
Perhaps, Dan. We'll see. We'll see how the segment goes. Right. I said moving, not removing. I mean, that's what I said. And so far, I have moved one little plant from this side of my computer to the left side of my computer. We'll see how the rest of the segment goes.
Roy with a surgical semantics thrown in there. Roy, Billy was making fun of you before the show today.
I was?
Because, well, you were saying, I was wondering, the Panthers have started, they're good, okay? Roy practically skipped out of here yesterday. I've never seen such happiness through the garage because he's got a good hockey team. He knows his hockey team is good. Yet last year was not a fluke. And now Roy is doing after the game, but Billy was saying, well, what about tonight? Are you doing anything after the game?
Big one tonight. The Bees, huh?
It was more of a limp, by the way, not really a skip.
Roy skipping is something I'd pay to see.
He was happy. Roy, you're not. Roy, tell me I'm saying any falsehoods when I say Roy is happier because he knows he's got happier, not happy. Roy is happier because he knows he has a good hockey team.
Sure. I mean, I'm glad that this team is currently winning right now, second place in the division.
Look at that joy.
So, yeah.
Look at that effervescence.
Sure.
Like a champagne bottle opening.
Listen, I'm a realist, Dan. All right. I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, you are seeing it.
You are seeing it. What
and
kind
I'm
just
seeing it
got
in
out
real
of the
time.
Stanley Cup final.
But there's a future here. There's a future.
When will you be happy if not after coming off of a Stanley Cup final?
I
When
would
he
be
sees
very
it.
joyous.
When they hoist the
see it,
cup,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
When I
okay,
see
so
that cup
anyways,
lifted.
so tonight
Anyway.
the Bees are in town.
Yes.
Post game.
After the game with Roy tonight?
No, we are recording a show before the game.
Ooh,
a
twist.
pregame.
Before the game with Roy.
This is what Billy was making fun of. Is it after the show with Roy? Is it after the game with Roy? Is it before the game with Roy? It's a convoluted concept.
It's hard to know when to plan to watch the
No,
show.
guys, I got this. It's Roy's weekly show previewing the biggest game of the season. No?
Sure.
All right.
But
Sure,
is it just
sure.
it's just a Florida Panthers segment?
No, it's also national. We also
wow,
going to interview
expanding.
John Butchergross
But
today.
shouldn't it be
Bucci.
Man.
Shouldn't it be after the games then?
Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we can't exactly
But
do
when
that.
it's called after the
But
game,
Thursday's Thanksgiving. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah, today's Wednesday. We're recording a show that's going to be released today before the game.
What does that have to do with Thanksgiving?
Because we can't record on Thursday. We usually record.
But there's
on
no
Thursday.
game on Thursday.
But after the game tonight.
after
is
the
what
game
we're saying.
suggests like
and there's a
very
game on
narrow-
Friday home.
I don't like
Friday.
what's happening here.
Yeah, I don't
Friday's
like
game
narrow.
going to have a post game.
It's Roy's show.
It's immediately after the game when we do the post.
But it seems like it's a show just for Roy because we don't know when it is.
I've listened to you and David, and it seems like it's just a Panthers segment.
Roy,
No, it's not. It's
I'm
also
going
national.
tonight.
Well,
I'll do
John
it.
Butchergross is
I'll
gonna
do
be
after
there.
the game with you. If you
Well, no,
want.
that's not today. Today's he's doing after the show.
Right.
But I'll be
pre-game.
there. My point
Yeah,
is,
I
I'm
tomorrow's
willing to.
Thanksgiving.
Right, but he's not doing it.
No, but he could put out the weekly preview today, and then I'm willing to do an after the game with him.
Are
if he
most
wants.
weekly previews on a Wednesday?
Not necessarily. No.
But it is when it's the biggest game of the year.
This is a Wednesday that
Oh, and
feels
it's
like a Friday,
Thanksgiving.
though.
But you can excuse like the narrow focus because it's such a big game.
It's a huge game. So
Okay.
yes.
There seems to be a bit of a confusion here. Can we just lay out the schedule for the fans trying to consume all of this
Roy,
content?
hold on a second. Roy, okay, right now, what is happening inside of me, what roils inside of me is gurgling with such
Royals.
a furious,
Royals.
with such a furious frenzy. I need to explain to the audience what, on
frenzy is
behalf of
furious.
Meadowlark Media, I am feeling right
You
now.
have a club in your hand.
Don't brew in the segments.
Whoa!
Oh, no!
I made up shirtless.
No! Bruin, the segment.
It's pretty simple. It's after the game with Roy sometimes, unless it falls on a week where there's Thanksgiving and we're going to do the preview show on a Wednesday that will come out on Thursday, previewing the Wednesday game.
That already happened.
With David Dwork.
And
The hockey
Bucci.
news.
Roy,
What?
what roils within me, and what this is what Billy mocks from the shadows over there, delighting
Not
in
mocking.
It sounds like mocking to me.
Well, Roy, it deserves mocking
No,
because
it doesn't.
Roy,
I mean,
Okay,
there-
yes, it does.
There's a lot of confusion here.
Roy, you have debuted a play. You know, I know we give out these platforms, but they're really valuable. Like really valuable.
That's real estate on one of
like-
the biggest
like-
sports properties on the
And
planet.
so you have this show that is yours because we give microphones to people, and you don't know when it is, how to sell it, and when we ask you what it is, you tell us it's national in scope, and you and David Dwork are always talking about the Panthers.
There's two shows here. There's after the game with Roy sometimes, and then there's his weekly thing What's that called?
This is your big chance.
We don't have a title.
Does it have a title?
Yes,
Trying to help you.
There's one show that doesn't have a title.
Yes.
One that does have a title.
That's right.
What does the second show talk
What
about?
is
The second show is the post-game show immediately after the game.
No, that's after the game with Roy.
Yes,
The
that's
weekly,
the second
weekly
show, yeah.
one is all-encompassing NHL recap that he does with David
With
Dwork.
no
Yes,
name? What
that's
do you
the first
publish?
That's the no name
When
one.
you
What is
publish
that?
That's the
it,
no-name
what
one.
is the
I
title?
got my finger right on the pulse here.
all encompassing.
How do we?
Whole
talk
NHL.
national stuff.
After the game
Like
is
Roy, they play the open.
playing fast
the
and
music's
loose with
playing,
that.
and you start. What
I've
do you
heard
say?
it.
How do you introduce the
Not
show?
even the music. What is the title that someone would even search for? How do you find it?
I just make up a title at the start of every show.
That's
Okay,
the,
so,
after
like,
the game, though.
you're
Roy,
partly
you
to
are
blame.
confused.
After
this
the
is
game
the-
is
this-
post-game
you're
after
confused.
the game.
You're not talking about Austin Matthews on this show.
You're
You're talking
during
about
the big show,
You're
yes.
talking about Kulikov.
Mike
No,
Ryan has
after the game.
Mike Ryan has so much good Edmonton Oilers stuff.
Well, I mean, good is a relative term, but I'm very confused as to what's happening with Connor McDavid. Can I talk about it with the host of After the Game sometimes?
where
maybe
would you
before
put
the
it?
game, during the show?
Hopefully
unless
they
it's
do a
Thanksgiving
post-game
week,
when they play
occasionally with David Dwork.
Yes.
May I talk to you about the Edmonton?
Sure.
Are both with David Dwork?
Yes.
Well,
All right,
then
Roy,
that-
I'm going to go ahead and
that's
tell
the
you,
same
this
show.
is the
What's
same
happening
show.
here?
It's the same
It's
show.
not the
the
same
same
show.
show.
We are
Two
immediately
episodes a week.
reacting to the Panthers game
One's
after
before,
the game.
one's after. In Roy's defense,
It's not the same show.
after. You're taping it today. They play tonight. There's nothing after the game because it's Thanksgiving.
This is
Tomorrow.
before the game, though.
Thanksgiving tomorrow.
That was impressive, Dan.
Falsetto. Octave.
When does Edmonton come to town so I know when Mike will be on this, if
well,
there's
they-
an episode that
Well,
week?
they
They
actually
came to town
played.
already.
So we're
They
actually
were
talking
just
about
here, yeah.
after the game.
Oh.
Yeah, the Panthers went down 2-0 in that game, came back and won. Edmonton has two generational talents on their team with Connor McDavid, who is consensus the best player in the NHL, and Leon Draisaitl, who is a monster, especially on the power play.
Best
racks
you've
up
ever
assists.
seen. The two best players in the history of the power play, according to
Yes.
you, who are playing next to each other.
I think there's certainly for the modern era, there's an argument to be made in terms of a tandem, best power play tandem in the history of the game. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. They've already fired their head coach this year. They were expecting that new manager bump. Hadn't quite happened yet. I'm really struggling to find out what's happening with Edmond. It seems as though the answer has been the Achilles heel of that team the entire time because they've had a good team that's been in the playoffs, and they're always undone by goalkeeping. This is still the issue for Edmonton there. But it's getting to the point now in the season, especially if you look at the standings, that do you call this a failed experiment so far in Edmonton? Because you have really young pieces over there that you build around. A person that you'd like to keep in that sweater, and Connor McDavid, and Draisaitl for that matter, for the entirety of their careers. You're not supposed to have players in their prime playing this well on a team that's performing this poorly. And naturally, people are going to be in CYA mode. Do you look to rebuild? It's not really a discussion yet outside of the internet.
Players anyone would want.
Oh, yes. And
But I'm
you
saying
give up a
that,
form.
but that becomes it only becomes a discussion when those are the ingredients.
Right. And
Like the Angels.
I mean, a ton of GMs are going to be knocking. Like it is a lot like Trout and Ohtani.
Right.
And I'm sure the GM for the last several years has had to rebuff teams trying to poach their best talent because what are you playing for this year? This year's a lost year. Is that a real conversation? Maybe not so much with McDavid, but with Draisaitl.
Well, Draisaitl has after the season has 1 year left on his contract. He has a modified no trade clause, so he can give 10 teams that he would want to trade to. McDavid has two.
Is Florida one of them?
Well, he hasn't given the list yet. He hasn't given the list yet.
I got to listen to
You got to
Dave.
listen.
Expert.
today for
Yeah,
tomorrow.
expert.
What is
But,
it?
but after the season, Connor McDavid has 2 years left on his contract. So
You tell him, Roy.
There's another thing that's hanging
Second
After the
spin-off.
season with Roy.
That's the third show.
after the season.
the exit
recap.
interview, yeah,
Provided
sure.
it gets renewed.
And
When would
David
that
Dwork.
be?
After the
After the season.
They're
Not
taping it
necessarily.
tomorrow.
Not
They're taping it
necessarily.
tomorrow.
Not
They're
nec-
taping it
not
tomorrow. Yeah.
necessarily.
Thanksgiving.
I have one more question for the hosts of After the Game, after the season, before the game, on a Thanksgiving week, occasionally, sometimes with David Dwork.
Of the hockey news.
Is Patrick Kane signing with the Florida Panthers?
Well, he's definitely got the Panthers as one of the teams on his list. So
Wow.
I don't know.
So Patrick Kane right now is available for anyone. He's taking meetings. Do you remember when Deion Sanders was auditioning teams and he was like sitting in Dolphin games before he finally settled on going with the Niners? That's what Patrick Kane is doing. But is Patrick Kane at that level anymore? I mean, the Rangers picked him up last year. They didn't do much. For depth, it's good. but is this a move you want to see the Panthers make, and do they have a legit shot?
I actually thought they would end up going to Buffalo. I mean, that's his hometown, and that's an up-and-coming team over there. But, yeah, the Panthers have a legit shot on landing him.
Yeah. Roy, this is what I'm here to tell you, okay? Meadowlark Media and these platforms are so large and important.
He's moving a plan.
That a lot of people are trying to partner with us. They want to partner and go into business on being able to share platforms with us. This is an enormous opportunity for you. After the game, before the game, sometimes with David Dork, sometimes not, sometimes
always with David.
Always with David.
That is
That's the one constant.
DT's
Podcast partner.
Yes. Double D.
Okay. All right. Don't bleep this up.
I'll try not to.
It hasn't started very strong.
Thanks, Dan.
I would like some assistance here navigating this Dolphins game, Stugotz, that is going to be on Friday. That this Thanksgiving is an unusual one in football. I am used to the Detroit Lions being a total afterthought. They're always bad. Someone's going to trample them. It doesn't matter.
Their game matters.
It doesn't matter. No, part of my Thanksgiving has not been Detroit football. It's that Detroit's going to make the football bad. My Thanksgiving football's, it's not just Thursday football. They need more rest. They shouldn't be out there at this point in the season after 3 days of rest. The football can be pretty bad on Thanksgiving, at least in part because Detroit's always involved in it.
Yeah, I am welcoming the refreshing change of pace in being able to see a good football team there. I mean, Packers-Lions, for the Packers to be the bad football team in that equation so quickly, this turnaround of Dan Campbell's, it's pretty impressive because normally this betting window was reserved for hoping to God Brandon Pettigrew can catch a touchdown. Now you got several players on the field.
Old number 84. Spent so many Thanksgivings rooting for that guy.
Oh, my God. There's a time-honored tradition of betting $25 on Brandon Pettigrew to score a touchdown.
I don't think that people really understand, and maybe they will be taught this on Thanksgiving before we get to also the Dolphins, who have been a laughingstock for 20 years. They've been a regional team. They've not been a national team. This is the first time they've been a national team since, like, Ricky Williams was here. I think I've got that right. It's been a long time.
I'm trying to think if they were even a national team then.
Maybe not.
That was a good run that concluded with Juan said, Latham, but that was – they were in the conversation.
I don't think it felt like this, though.
They were national when Nick Saban came in.
They were considered like a top 3, top 4 team in their own conference back then.
You've got the Dolphins debuting last night on Hard Knocks. They're a national team this year because of offense, because they're good at offense, because they have Tyreek Hill, and because people have taken interest in Tua.
Being a national storyline primarily because your offense has not been a thing since the early 90s.
So we'll get to the Dolphins in a second, but Stugotz asked me yesterday when we were leaving for some reason, Dan, are you going to watch that Barry Sanders documentary? And I am not interested in the Barry Sanders documentary. I have found Barry Sanders' play to be electric, his personality to not be. And that team ruined him and Calvin Johnson. They both quit. That's how bad the Lions have been. It's not just that they haven't been 8-2 since 1960s, Stugotz. 1960s, when people were going to baseball games in suits and fedoras. 1960s.
In my lifetime, I have a 4-year-old daughter. I am approaching my 40s. I have seen the Lions win one playoff game. And I don't really recall it, but Eric Kramer.
It was Kramer.
Made it to an NFC championship game.
He had a big game, yeah.
It was a little bit before my recollection of that.
Oh, Wayne Fonts?
Are the Lions in the same boat as the Dolphins? As this is the best it's been in decades.
The Lions are the worst of this.
Oh,
But I'm saying right now, the way we feel about the Lions is as good as we have in decades.
Yes. For certain, yes. The Lions or the Jets. Those are the two, like, for fan bases that have been tortured over
Not the
40
Jets.
years.
Stu's like, I want to get in here.
No, Stugotz.
You know what?
No,
Earlier-
Stugotz.
Earlier in the week, I let it slide because I mentioned
No.
the Browns, and he's like, "You went to 2 AFC championships with
did.
Kozar.
You did.
You went
So
to
did
2
you.
AFC championships with Mark Sanchez.
So did you.
Stu, the Dolphins could make the argument that in my lifetime, the Jets have been better.
No, you cannot.
No.
Dude, I
No.
remember
In terms of
three.
accomplishments.
You can't.
Vinny Testaverde, 2 Mark Sanchez. You've been within a game of the Super Bowl 3 times recently.
Really 4 if you want to count Richard Todd, A.J. Dewey, Shula put the sprinklers on, made the field wet, he cheated. We remember that game. Too soon?
I don't remember
soon.
that game.
Wow.
You don't
What year was that?
84, I think.
1970s.
Well,
It's a
before he was
Lions.
alive.
I was
Then
born
it-
in 84.
Then it's the Browns, and your Jets are right there in that miserable conversation.
Okay, all right. Semantics.
What a sad argument we're having.
He wants to be a bigger loser.
All of us are right now. No, I'm the biggest
He
loser.
wants that. Stugotz wants to be the biggest loser. We're like, no, it's Lions fans. They win. And Stugotz's like, no, I'm the biggest loser.
Dolphin fans are like, I can get in this game. Mike's like, Browns, what about us?
But I'm not doing it off of your lifetime. I'm doing it off of my lifetime. In my lifetime, the Dolphins have been good. They have.
I'd say us.
The Dolphins have made one player quit, Ricky Williams. The Detroit Lions have made 2 of their best players quit, Calvin Williams and Barry Sanders.
Calvin Johnson, Megatron.
Excuse me, Calvin Johnson. That is a fine.
Yeah.
The tall
So are you
guy,
watching the
tall
documentary?
guy in Detroit.
Are you watching this
He said no,
documentary?
dude.
It's
Roy
Bye Bye.
Williams?
I'm not. It's Bye Bye Barry on Amazon Prime, and I'm not watching it. Although I saw 7 minutes of it last night, and
On mute.
then stopped watching it.
Huh.
I gave it 7 minutes, which
Really?
is
Just
How
gave
does
up.
how does a documentary lose you in 7 minutes?
Did you do the thing with your hands where you clap? I'm done with this.
like a blackjack
punt on
dealer
interviews,
leaving
you're like,
the
Where
table.
did they lose you?
I mean, I didn't go in with the most optimism, but then Barry Sanders, because he's not a great interview, wasn't.
So it's when Barry Sanders started talking?
Yeah, I mean
That
well,
you gave up
I-
on a Barry Sanders
I
documentary.
thought you were.
Good part,
I
right.
thought you were going to give me in the first 7 minutes. I thought you were going to give me some of the stuff I wanted to keep
me
me
in.
here. Nope. You did it exactly the way I thought you were
May
going
I
to do
ask
it.
you, what
you
is it
added some smoke to the situation. You put some video on it, but nope, it's not that interesting.
May I ask you what it is about the 90s Lions that you were looking forward to most about this documentary?
Well, this part. Thank you for asking.
How they broke 2 players?
Nope. I've got another part. Perhaps, Chris Cody, even though you didn't live during this time either, your father, you remember, is famous for trading Dan Marino, the greatest offensive time that most appeared like this one for the Dolphins, for Scott Mitchell. After which, and I wish we could find this, he did a local television interview where they pixelated his face in front of the Miami Herald building and altered his voice because he traded. He wrote a column trading Dan Marino because the Dolphins had Scott Mitchell.
Is it the most famous column in the history of this market?
Sports column, probably. Yes.
How about him?
Yes.
It's the last risk he took.
Yes, that it scarred him. But so now what's happened, Stugotz, is that very same Scott Mitchell is being quoted in the Detroit News. I just watched Bye Bye Barry on Amazon Prime. Again, this is someone that Greg Cody traded Dan Marino to make room for Scott Mitchell.
I'm glad it's not a different one. That would be strange.
Quote, it was not a very pleasant experience. I was Barry Sanders' teammates for 5 years. I had a front row seat to some of the most amazing plays in NFL history. He will never have an equal as a pure runner in the NFL. I could argue that there were several running backs that were more complete, but I won't.
What?
Barry was great. However, I am so tired of hearing how I was the reason that Barry Sanders never won a Super Bowl. I'm so tired of hearing how I was not a good quarterback. My only response is, fuck you all. That includes Eminem and Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels. Yeah. All right, you just sold the hell out of this documentary. I was scanning my brain, and I think my very first football memory ever was a Lions adjacent memory. The paralysis of Mike Utley, I think, is my first vivid football memory.
Oh, that was in the first 7 minutes of what
man.
And
you turned it off.
Well, this is what happened.
Well, Barry started talking.
Oh.
I actually
the nerve on his own documentary.
Roy, thank you for asking, because perhaps it wasn't just being bored by Barry Sanders talking that got me out. Perhaps, given what just flashed in my mind, it was just my moral conflict with all of this. They showed one of the starting lineups in Barry Sanders' first game, and at that time, Mike Utley's name was on the screen, and he was playing. He could walk. And now he's paralyzed. So maybe somewhere in there, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to check out.
Yeah, it's like 5-year-old me watching that and really confused as to what was happening. And now it's kind of become routine.
Paralysis?
Or at least more routine. But that was like, it's stark. That's crazy that my first football memory is a player getting paralyzed.
In, again, Lions football that wasn't any good 30 years before that and wouldn't be any good 30 years after that. Like that's why, Stugotz, I'm surprised to hear you. Like, I understand long-suffering Jets fans, but no, the Lions haven't been anywhere close to having a team that all of us look at and watch and say,
Fair.
yeah, that could be in the NFC Championship game. That has not happened in those uniforms or any Detroit uniforms for as long as I've lived. Not with Stafford. They didn't make Stafford quit, but they tried. They tried to make him quit. What the tattered remains of Stafford that won a Super Bowl as soon as he got out of Detroit?
In retrospect, that is one of the more fascinating NFL trades.
Good trade.
Yeah. I mean, the Lions won the trade.
It's not every day that you see two starting quarterbacks traded for one another. But the plan was, all right, we're just doing this to make the salaries work out, and they'll clearly move on from Goff. But Goff totally reshaping himself.
It's the rare trade where one team won the Super Bowl, but the other team won the trade.
Debatable.
That's amazing.
Long
What he
term.
just did,
Yeah.
you saw what just happened there, right, Chris Cody? He is so prisoner of the moment that the way that Jared Goff played in the last game, where he threw 3 interceptions but brought them back, means that the Lions won that trade, even though, yes, you remember correctly. I think he forgot, even though we just said it.
No, I remember.
The Rams did win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
He's been with this Goff take for about 2 years now. He's not going to let it go.
I mean, they have a quarterback, the Lions do, for the next 12 years. Stafford's going to be
slow
done
down.
in 3 years.
12 years?
Goff is good, man.
Dude,
How old is he?
They didn't just get Goff from that deal. Like, the total haul ended up being Goff, Laporta, who's been a really nice pickup, better than Brandon Pettigrew, some would
Don't
say.
bail him out on this.
Jamar-
He's saying strictly Jared Goff is why they won.
You have Gibbs, you have Pashaw, like that.
Thank you.
Well, you've got a bonus
good.
God Bless Football coming out here today because Stugotz has, in fairness to Stugotz, he has been since the beginning, and I made fun of that trade like everybody made fun of that trade. Why are the Lions taking the Goff contract? That's clearly a McVay product. He's not going to be able to do it for Dan Campbell. Now, he has been good for them. They're also great at running the football, and they're going to stampede the Packers, who are bad at stopping the run, so they can just run the ball. But to see Goff be a surprise when he's leading them back to beat Chicago, and I expect it, even though he's thrown 3 interceptions, that I expect the Lions.
You trust Jared Goff to come back in that game.
I trust them to be good at offense.
You also trust the Bears to blow that game.
I trust the Lions to be good at offense, and they're running the ball. They have balance, and this might be the best Lions team of my lifetime. I've seen the one. I've seen all the others, and this one is better offensively than those, and I can't believe I'm saying that about Jared Goff.
It's a crazy notion to think when you project, and I know the Eagles just won a really impressive game at Arrowhead, a game that the Lions also won, might I remind you. It kind of looks like the Super Bowl is going to go through Detroit. It's very likely that they have home field advantage in a first-round bye. They're going to be a game within a game of the Super Bowl. Just before the postseason gets underway.
I've got to say it to be viral. This is the best Detroit Lions team of my entire lifetime.
All right, everybody.